and we will go ahead and get started. So I'm Michelle Morris with Consolidated Planning Group. Today we have with us Christy Lee from Workforce Solutions Texoma. Thank you so much for hosting us and telling your group about us and letting us present to your group. We also have Caroline Turner from Quirky Buds. She's going to be speaking today and telling us all about her program. I have met Caroline before and done a webinar with her before, and I just love this program. I think it's so wonderful what she's doing over there with Quirky Buds. A couple of housekeeping items first before we get started. We are in webinar mode, and that means that we cannot hear you or see you, but we do have the chat box. I am going to double check the settings and make sure you can. Yes, you can use the chat box to ask questions or leave comments for us, and we'll go through any questions that pop up that way. This is being recorded, and everybody who registered for today's webinar will receive a copy of the recording and the slides. So if you see a slide that has something like that you can click on, you'll get that in an email and you'll be able to click on the slides when you get it later. So without any further ado, a little bit about Consolidated Planning Group. We are a holistic financial planning firm. We focus on families with special needs loved ones and helping them plan for the future, making sure that you have all of your benefits in place, your government benefits, and you don't mess any of that up, and that you're saving for the future of your child and taking care of your child in the future once you're gone. A couple of things that we really focus on is protection plans. Like I said, protecting your family and loved ones in the future, lifetime care costs. We can do an estimate of what those costs might be if your loved one might need some kind of residential housing situation or even like a partial residential living. We can help you determine what that looks like for your family and what it could cost. Transition planning as they're growing from a child into an adult and leaving school and coming into the world. There's a lot to be considered there, and we can definitely help with that. ABLE accounts. An ABLE account is just one place where you can save money for your child where it will not mess up their government benefits. And advocacy and education, helping you navigate the intricacies of special needs planning, because it is confusing and it is tough, and there's so much out there that parents don't even know that they don't know. So that's why we do these webinars, to help educate and let people know the resources that are out there and available to them. So today, like I said, we've got Caroline Turner with Quirky Buds. She is a lot of fun, and this program is awesome. So Caroline, you want to take it away? I will let you know if any questions come up.
Cool. And yeah, please put in the chat anything, questions, thoughts, whatever. I love doing webinars. And it's nice to have this platform, but I'm also like, I love interacting with people. So sometimes not being able to see y'all, I'm like, is anybody out there? But yes, my name's Caroline Turner. I'm a licensed social worker here in Texas. I do work full-time for Adult Children's Ascension. And I will say Quirky Buds is not associated with Ascension at all. They are very aware that it's happening, but I want to make sure to kind of have that distinction so that y'all know today I'm wearing my Quirky Buds hat. Will you go to the next slide, Michelle? Mm-hmm. Okay, so Quirky Buds is a free online friendship matching program that I started. I launched just basically in May. And I started it because first and foremost, we're all very hardwired to want to be connected. We're all hardwired to want friendship. And it can be really difficult, especially post-pandemic times, it's been an interesting ride to try to make new friends, right? Or be reconnected with the community. And the reason I started Quirky Buds is because I kept hearing from parents and self-advocates about how hard it is to meet people, but also because I am, as I still consider myself a young adult, but in my mid 30s, I'm like, it's hard for me too. Especially as my friends kind of, partner and marry and have children. It's like difficult to kind of find new friends. And so this kind of system I developed to help people get connected and meet new friends. So there's lots of ways to make friends, as we know. And I think, as I mentioned, as we get older, it's definitely more difficult. But even as young children, it can be hard to kind of put ourselves out there. Specifically talking about, neurodiverse individuals and making friendships. One of the things that, I think about a lot, especially during social skills groups or talking with individuals on the spectrum, neurotypical people have this social skill where we like to just be nice. So even if we're, interacting with somebody and maybe we don't want to be friends with that person, we're often like, oh, it was fun to meet you, or, oh, maybe we'll get together some other time. And that can be really confusing because it's not really straightforward, and it doesn't make for close friendships. So when we think about ways to make friends, the main things that we want to look for, which I think goes into more on the next slide, is talking about, there we go, the main friendship factors. So friendship factors, what we know from the research, is that people, neurotypical people, but also people with autism specifically, want friends who are like them, who are on their same level intellectually or developmentally, and also have similar interests. So when we're looking at this slide, we basically think about four main things when we think about friendship. I'm also trained in the Peers curriculum, which is a social skills curriculum. And they talk about this a lot in Peers, and they're a wonderful evidence-based program on how to make and keep friends. So I also want to shout them out as a good resource and kind of a place where I got some of these references. But one of the main things we start to look for is common interests. So if I'm really, really into reading, which I am, I probably don't want to be close friends with somebody who hates to read. That's just not really going to be a great kind of way to make friends. And that's a very basic, we can have other common interests, but when we think about common interests, we want to come up with something that we can connect with another individual on and share that liked interest and maybe do that together. So that's the first thing we're really looking for. The second one, where these kids are kind of like doing the pinky thing, is mutual is a mutual motivation. So it's the idea that like when we make friends with somebody, we're both in it, right, for this mutual motivation. So oftentimes when I'm doing social skills, we talk about a power differential. We really don't want a power differential when it comes to friendships. That means things like age can be one that's kind of obvious, but also, especially when you're younger, these like cool kids or these cliques that happen, right? We want to make sure that we're both in the friendship for the right reasons. And nobody's kind of being like manipulated, or one friend is like using the friendship for something other than just wanting to be a close friend. So we really got to be on the lookout for that mutual motivation. And then this third one is supposed to be talking about sharing. So this is kind of like, my little pictures are kind of silly, but thank you. But the sharing is really about, conversation wise. So we want to be able to share a conversation as well as share what we're doing together. So that includes things like on play dates with kids, right? We don't want one child to be picking the activity every single time. It's not really sharing, and it kind of goes back to that mutual motivation. It kind of creates a power differential. So we really want to be able to share the conversation, but also share the activities. And as adults too, right? Like I don't want to go have dinner with someone who picks where we go every single time. I want to have the opportunity to do that as well. So we really want to have a shared back and forth conversation, and also kind of equal choice in what we're doing.
Right.
And then this last one is location. So I think the pandemic showed us, right, that we can be friends and have this like Zoom relationship with a lot of people. But when it comes to really close, authentic friends, it's important to be able to see those people frequently. So, that includes somebody in our neighborhood or somebody who's, in our same zip code, and somebody that we're able to just kind of interact with pretty frequently, and also have these other kind of factors as well. So really talking about, somebody who's close to me, who's going to allow me to be like my authentic self and have that frequent interaction.
Caroline, do you feel like there's any one of these friendship factors that is the most important, or are they all pretty equal?
Great question. I think they're all pretty equal, but I think according probably to the research and out of peers is that this common interest tends to be the one that's maybe the most predictive for kind of creating longer lasting friendships.
Very cool. Okay.
Okay, so that brings me to talking a little bit about Quirky Buds, which essentially is this website that I started to kind of combine those important factors of friendships and make it easy for individuals with different abilities to connect with like-minded individuals. So that's a lot of like jargon, I feel like. So let me tell you what it means. Basically, through Quirky Buds, what I'm doing is matching different friendships based on age, location, and common interests. So I basically take those three big ones and say, who's near you that also likes reading? Who's near you that also likes anime? And are these people close in age or close in developmental age to really be a friend? And thank you. Yep. No, you're perfect. That's great.
Okay.
Yeah. And one of the things that I think, is unique to individuals, particularly on the spectrum, but also just in terms of neurodiverse in general, is this special interest, right? So I did have an adult in the past who had joined this webinar, and he couldn't be here. But really thinking about special interests and how those sometimes with individuals on the spectrum can be so unique or specific that it can be kind of hard to find a common interest with somebody else. And that's really also why I wanted to have Quirky Buds, because for example, one of the adults that has joined this in the past, he told me he loves zip codes, right? That's kind of his big interest. But also he's interested in geography. And within those zip codes, he loves to talk to people about the parks that are near their home. And so I think it's just really, unique to him that he's interested in zip codes, and he knows that's not everybody's favorite topic. But for me, like when him and I connect, he talks to me about the parks nearby because he knows them geographically, and also where else maybe I can go to that I'm interested in. So really within Quirky Buds, trying to kind of highlight those specific special interests and find people who, want to encourage those, but also kind of open it up a little bit to include some more general interests, to have people really connect through that.
Today, I talked to somebody whose son was very, very interested in cheerleading and school mascots. So that's something that's a little bit quirky, that not everybody would be interested in. And I thought that it was just fascinating that, he knows all the college teams and all of their different mascots. And of course, he wants to be, well, he is the mascot for his high school. He got that role and just loves it. But that's what he's really into, is cheerleading and mascots. So, being into that, you could open that up a little bit more and expand it to sports teams and colleges and schools, and even kind of geography, if you look at it that way.
Absolutely. Yeah. As soon as you said that, I was thinking of sports too. I was like, oh yeah, you could easily jump that to sports. And I think, sometimes, it might be harder to kind of make that initial connection if one individual is talking about sports and the other individual is talking about mascots. But in reality, once you kind of start down that, you can think of things that those individuals could do together that would incorporate the two, like going to a sports event, seeing the mascot, seeing the game. or watching that together or talking about it. But I do think, sometimes it can feel, on one of these webinars in the past, I had a parent write into saying like, my older child is still really likes Barney. And like, I'm not sure if that would be of interest to anybody else. And I think, when I had the adult with me, he was like, of course, like I like to talk about cartoons, or I like to talk about, um, what's it called? Bronies, the My Little Ponies for adults. And I think, it's like those things might feel like, oh, this has got to be only unique to me. But I think more and more, especially doing this Quirky Buds website, I'm learning that people have a lot of specific interests. And it doesn't really matter your age or where you are. There's probably somebody else who's just as like interested or wants to talk about it as you do.
Yeah. Are you done with this slide or?
Yes, sorry. Oh, that's all. I was like, wow.
No, you need to talk about neurodiverse friends.
Oh, I apologize. I got ahead of myself. I'm sorry, y'all. I got too excited about all the other things. Okay, so as I mentioned, yes, when we talk about kind of neurodiverse friends, what we were talking about at the beginning is through the research, we know that individuals with autism do want friends. I feel like this is kind of a misconception, is that people with autism, oh, they like being by themselves. It's like, no, like we're all hardwired to connect. And that's something that even though their friendships may look different or not exactly like neurotypical, then that doesn't mean that they don't want to be friends. And so we know through the research, as I mentioned, that also individuals with autism want friends who are like them. Does that mean that they have to have autism? Not necessarily, but they want friends who they can talk to, who they can relate to, just like the rest of us do. So really, when we think about trying to expand that neurodiverse friendship kind of group, we have to look for the same things. And it can be, really difficult to find like an honest and true friend, especially when we've kind of had this maybe negative experiences in the past. And I know individuals who are neurodiverse talk often about being bullied or being rejected. And so it can feel really difficult to kind of try to go down that road again. And I think that's another reason too, why trying to set up something like Quirky Buds where I was able to connect just one individual with another, rather than suggesting, go out and join a meetup group where you kind of have to put yourself out there and maybe be in a more public setting. Instead, really trying to just create a system where you can match with somebody, have a couple conversations online before potentially meeting in person to make sure that you really click. And then as I was talking about what topics that I hear through Quirky Buds, it's been really fun to see people write in different kind of interests. As I mentioned, the Bronies, which is My Little Pony for adults. We had one with Barney. We also have things, that are more specific, like Asian history or trivia. I had one individual who is really interested in foreign films, which again, that's not really like that quirky. But it's something that I think, when you're just maybe trying to Google a meetup group or something that may be in your area, it's a little bit harder to find those specific interests.
Now, can I just ask real quick, do you have people fill out some kind of a form that tells what their interests are? How do you find out all this information about somebody when they're coming to you and looking for help finding friends?
Yes, thank you for asking. So basically what I have is on my website, which is just quirkybuds.com, there's two separate forms to choose from. The first is for if you're an adult with autism. Oh, great. Yeah, great question. One second. The first is for if you're an adult that's neurodiverse, or if you have an adult child, you would fill that one out. So basically 18 and above. And then the second one is finding a bud for your child. And so the youngest, this goes to answer the question in the chat, the youngest I have signed up right now is 2, I think. because it asks for your birthday. And so you can put in, your child's age. And the oldest we have right now is actually 70. So it's quite the range.
That is.
But basically what I ask for is your date of birth, your zip code. So I don't match anybody who is further out than 30 minutes. And even 30 minutes feels kind of far, but I know living in some of these bigger towns in Texas, it can be kind of a little bit of a commute. So we don't match anybody who's more than 30 minutes, but it could be like 30 minutes exactly. And then I look at age and your interests. So I have a whole list of interests that you can check, like, yes, I like this, or yes, my child likes this, but then there's also a place to write in. And essentially, once I get a couple write-ins of the same thing, I try to add that to the list. So that way, if we have anime, which is a big one that was written in originally that I didn't have because, I'm like out of the loop, but I add that in. And then, the form that is for adults has different interests than the form for children.
Okay.
So that's kind of why there's two forms, is to have those different interests. And then from there, I basically get that form, you all submit it, and I go through and match people each week. So you only get an email once a week with your matches. And in order to answer this question too, if there is like no match that week, we essentially have new buds signing up every single week. So I send out an email saying like, there weren't any buds this week, but hang on, because as the word spreads, there's more people joining. So some people have, gotten matches almost every single week if you're in a very highly populated area. And your child is right now, the majority are probably like that 6-year-old range, is kind of like our most popular age. But I'm like, just hold on, we're getting there. We get new ones each week, and then you can get a new match. And there is no cost. It's totally free. This is just a passion project of mine that I continually heard from parents and adults that they wanted. And so I'm working to, spread the word and potentially like bring on an intern of sorts. But right now it is just me. So your information is very private.
Yeah, there's only
So
one person reading it. Do you have to be on the autism spectrum to participate?
No, and thank you for asking. I always kind of go that route because that is kind of the majority of the patients I serve in my day job. But you do not have to be on the autism spectrum. And I don't even really ask that question. So some parents will say, or individuals will say, I'm on the spectrum. Some people have said, I have social anxiety. Some people have said I have ADHD. And then more recently, there's been some that have said, I just want to I want to be inclusive. I want to make new friends. So that's, it's basically open to anybody. It doesn't matter if you have a diagnosis or not, just kind of a way to make friends based on your interest. But originally it was to kind of help specifically people on the spectrum.
We also had a question asking where you're located, but I wanted to add to that. And you said most popular is like this 6-year-old age range. I'm wondering which area is most popular as well. So where are you located, and where are most of the Quirky Buds located?
Yes, so I am in Austin. And so since this is where I started, this is definitely kind of the area that's most populated. But I would say Texas in general is definitely, there's a decent amount in Dallas, there's a decent amount in Houston, San Antonio. And then there are some that are growing out of that, which is, I'm like, oh, come on, we got to fill in the gaps for these friends that are a little bit further out. But beyond that, I'm actually now in 11 states. We have 11 buds in 11 different states. And then, which is kind of sad because I will say, right now I only have one bud in Connecticut. And I'm like, oh, I don't know how he found me, but
hard. Yeah.
I know. So I'm trying to get the word out in all these different places. So that way, people who want to find friends, we can expand. And then we also are just had a couple of signups in London as well. So We're
Wow.
growing just kind of in different places.
I wonder too if, yes, you want to match people who are close by, but if there's not a bud that matches that's close by, maybe they can just build an internet friendship at least, an email, and have kind of a pen pal situation.
Absolutely. And that's been something I've thought about adding in to say, like, are you okay with having a Zoom friend who's close in age and has the same interests? Because as someone else just asked in the chat, what about people living in rural areas? Yeah, absolutely. There have been, a couple of signups. There was one recently just kind of on the border of Texas and Louisiana. And that one is hard because you're right. I'm doing my best to get the word out, but it could be months before somebody else signs up in that area. And I know it's a while to wait. So it's definitely, oh, sorry, I got distracted by the chat. It's definitely something I'm working on, but it is an option potentially here in the next couple of weeks. We're debating about adding in that Zoom kind of question.
Cool. Very cool.
And then in terms of this last question, once there is a match, drive suggestions on how to start in the friendship and maintain it. So yes and no. I mean, the origin of this, program and group is to really kind of make the match and then empower people to really take ownership of their friendships and kind of make that initial contact. So, I also had people ask me, because right now I only share emails. That's kind of how I say, like, hey, Michelle, here's a bud in your area and here's their email. It's then on Michelle to kind of reach out to that person. But I also put in the email, email your bud, ask them about their interest, introduce yourself. So the goal is, yes, I want to be helpful in terms of starting that friendship and matching it and maintaining it. But at the same time, this program is really just to try to find those individuals and then, like I said, empower the family or the individual themselves to maintain that friendship, whether it be, like I said before, through that consistent kind of contact that we know is important for friendship, through discussing common interests, and also through sharing. So sharing the conversation, sharing kind of who chooses the activity. So yeah, yes and no, I guess is the answer.
And what about other groups or interest groups? If someone is interested in one particular thing and they find an interest group online or something like that, what other groups are
Yeah,
you?
definitely. So, I mean, one of the main ways through, social skills classes that we teach at the clinic and also through a side group as well is talking about finding those groups. So mostly we recommend using Meetup or Facebook. Like I mentioned before, you can really search specifically in terms of topics on those. The biggest difference is that you would be kind of entering a group situation rather than kind of having this one-on-one match, if that makes sense. But for people who are, wanting to go in person and maybe meet somebody, Meetup or Zoom, Meetup and Facebook are great for those. And in my clinic, so I work full-time for Ascension Dell Children's, as I mentioned at the beginning. So this is separate from them. They know about it, but they don't, they're not associated. They have a separation. But that is the clinic that I work at, is through Dell Children's, the Developmental Behavioral Pediatric Clinic.
So this is how we can get in touch with you. And what I see you're at Quirky Buds. Is that all social media, or what social media outlets is that?
Yeah, that's for Instagram and Facebook. And then I did just update my email address, which I'll put in the chat. It's on on the website, but I'll put it in here too. It's just Caroline@quirkybuds.com.
Okay, good. So if someone wants to join your group, the easiest way would be to email you or just go to your website?
Just go to the website and you'll see right on there, it says like find a bud for yourself or find a bud for your child. And once you click on the link, it'll take you to the form and fill it out, and I'll get it and I'll be ready to send you a match or an update. I send out emails every Tuesday.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Caroline. This is, like Laura says in the chat box, this is such a wonderful idea. I love it. Like I said at the beginning of this webinar today, I just think it's such a great idea and wonderful work that you're doing out there to help people connect. We also have Christy with us today from Workforce Solutions Texoma. And we also refer people to Workforce Solutions Texoma all the time. They have some really great programs to help train and educate your child about what it means to be in the workforce. How do you get a job and find a job and keep a job? And it's not always easy, especially for neurodiverse kids. But they can help really in so many ways, helping you find out what your interests are, what your impediments to working are, and how you can overcome those. You can talk to people at a Workforce Solutions professional by clicking there. And of course, you can't click there right now, but when we send you these slides, they will be clickable. So like I said, after this webinar is over, we're going to email all these slides to you and you'll be able to get there. But you know, they can really help, they can really help you prepare, or your student prepare for the future. You know, what careers are they interested in? You know, they've got their interests, as quirky as they may be. Maybe it's cheerleading, or maybe it's some of the other things that Caroline mentioned, children's shows, or, you know, any interest. You can find a job that can correlate with that. And what occupations lead to good wages and adequate employment opportunities? You know, is there a way that you can make work out of loving children's shows? Well, of course there is, because you can work with those shows. I'm sure there's a way. Maybe you could get into programming or television, digital recording, things like that. So Workforce Solutions will help prepare for good job opportunities in the area. They can provide information on potential careers, wages, salaries, projected job openings, job growth, and help you figure out if that would be a good job for you based on the criteria and the training requirements of that particular job. So their contact information is down there. Of course, they have a great website, workforcesolutionsTexoma.com. You can email April Martin at wfstexoma.org. Some of the other things that they can help with, and what they really, you know, the training that they focus on, is career exploration. Like I said before, what would be a good career that your child would be interested in? Work-based learning. You know, you want to be ready to go into that career and learn while you're on the job as well. They can help with counseling on post-secondary options. You know, not everybody has to go down the same path of going to college and taking a full course load at college. You know, maybe it's one or two courses. Maybe it's a community college instead of the big state college. Maybe it's a certificate program instead of a graduation required, you know, college program. They can help with work readiness, making sure that your child knows what to expect before they walk into the workplace. And like I said, can be prepared for that a little better. And self-advocacy, being able to say things like, hey, I've worked every day this week, which is a conversation I have with my own child. He's 18 and neurotypical, but he got a new job and they've been working him every single day. And I had to tell him, you know, don't be afraid. If you need a break, tell them, you know. So they need to be able to do that. They need to be able to say in a nice, polite way, hey, I need a break, or hey, I have a question about how to do this. I know I was trained, but I still have questions. So they need to be able to advocate for themselves. Um, Students can't work earlier than age 14, as I'm reading in the chat box. So, you don't really need to worry about that until about age 14, but they do have programs to help at an early age to prepare you, like their PREETS program, pre-employment transition services. That's a perfect transition to this. So you just go to this website. The VR lookup, vocational rehab, is something that we always tell people about when we're talking to families with special needs loved ones, because this can really help a lot with really nailing down, like I said, those impediments to working, what's holding them back, and how can we help them succeed and take charge of their lives and get out there and be successful. So you can reach out to the contact information is hidden by my little box there. There you go. The twc.texas.gov/VR near me, and you can get that going. Vocational rehab is a fantastic program. There's transition services for students, work-based learning, all of the stuff that we talked about, they can help with. And it's a great program. So it says 22 years old. Is that the upper limit, Christy? Yeah, 22 years old. So if you're between 14 and 22 years old, or your student, your child is, then they can.
Once they reach 22, then they just move up into the adult disability. They're not excused.
Pre-eds anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. It looks like there's one other thing. Yes, so it's okay to wait until they're 14. Much earlier than that, it's more of what you do at home, talking to them about what their interests are. So how you can reach Workforce Solutions Texoma is here on the screen. They have a QR code that you can use to get on their mailing list. And again, this will be emailed to you, so you'll have all this information. As far as special needs planning and more things that need to be on your radar, and I know there are so many things that need to be on your radar, and each of these topics can pretty much be an hour-long webinar, and are webinars that we do, and there's just so much that you need to know. It's like people don't even know what they don't know when it comes to special needs planning. But if you check out our YouTube channel, all these webinars that we do, we put on our YouTube channel. They're always free. And we try to always keep it to an hour. I'm checking our time. Good. We're at 12:38, so we're doing good. But how to develop a comprehensive special needs care plan. That means, how are you going to make sure that your child is going to be taken care of for the rest of their lives, even once you're gone? How are you going to make sure that that's paid for? We do a future care cost estimate to help you see what that looks like. It usually is. Not just that it could be millions, but it usually is millions. But we can show you how much money it will take to take care of them, and how much money you would need to invest or break even, because maybe you need 4 million. And I'm just saying, every family is different. I don't know your situation, but maybe your child will need $4 million to take care of them for the rest of their lives. You don't need to have $4 million to pay for $4 million, because of compound interest and time and all of that stuff if you invest that money. So we can show you the exact break-even amount that it would take. Making sure your child is getting all of their government benefits is a big part of making sure that they're taken care of, right? So like the Texas waivers lists, you need to make sure that you're on the list. There are 2 phone numbers that you're going to need to call. We have information about that on our YouTube channel, previous webinars we've done, but you need to call your local authority, your local intellectual disability authority to make sure you're on that list. And there's another phone number too. And we need to make sure that they're getting their SSI or SSDI benefits. There's a difference, and we can help you figure out which one you need and how to apply and get the most benefit for your buck. ABLE accounts are a place that they can have money without jeopardizing their benefits. Beneficiary designations. What we're talking about there is making sure that you don't have your child listed on your life insurance or on your bank accounts or anything where they're listed as a beneficiary, because if, for example, you pass away and they get your life insurance, they have $1 million, whatever your life insurance policy is, and all of a sudden they don't qualify for any benefits anymore because they have all this money. So you need to make sure that you have a special needs trust set up, and that is the beneficiary of your life insurance or your bank accounts or whatever it might be. So you set up a special needs trust and set that as the beneficiary, and that's how you can help, you can fund those. A special note here, child support. If there's a child support situation in your life that goes beyond your child's age 18, that needs to be redirected to a first party special needs trust as well, because it will be counted as income when your child turns 18. It's their income. And again, that could jeopardize their benefits. Residential living facilities, something else that needs to be on your radar. If a residential living facility is possibly in your future, you want to start researching and preparing for that. They're not all created equal. They don't all serve the same communities. Some will not take children who have maybe they don't have the ability to toilet by themselves. And so they say, well, we can't take that risk. And then some can. And some are specifically for autism, and some are specifically for Down syndrome or whatever. So you want to start figuring that out ahead of time. And there could be wait lists on these residential living facilities. So you need to know, you might want to tour some of them. They're really cool. You might picture in your head that the kids are just bored and sitting around and doing nothing, but it's not like that at all. They have jobs and they feel responsibilities and they have friends, and it's really wonderful, most of the residential places out there. Before your child turns 18, you want to consider whether guardianship is necessary. You definitely want to have at least a power of attorney and healthcare power of attorney. And that's even for neurotypical kids. My older son is 21 and he's in Chicago at college. If he gets run over by the L train tomorrow, he's 21. The doctors don't have to call me and don't have to even tell me he's in the hospital or where he is. So we have a healthcare power of attorney in place to make sure that they do, make sure that they let me know what's going on and they can talk to me because I have the healthcare power of attorney. Guardianship will take an attorney. You do have to have an attorney to help with that, but you can begin that process within 6 months of your child turning 18 years old. And there are plenty of post-high school educational options out there, different programs, transition programs, day programs, all kinds of stuff that can help your child. And we can help introduce you to some of those resources. This is our team at Consolidated Planning Group. We are a small boutique style independent firm. We are part of the Academy of Special Needs Planners. We are also National Social Security Advisors and members of the $1 Million Roundtable. Allison and Jeff are the owners of the company. They have 2 special needs kids, and that's why we do what we do. Andy and I, our husband and wife, we have 2 neurotypical kids who still drive us crazy. And Meredith is our marketing director who helps set up all of these great webinars to help get this information out to everybody. And how you can contact us is here. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and our Facebook page so that you have updated information all the time. You can check out these webinars if you miss one and need to watch it at night while the kids are sleeping or whatever, you can do that. We give everybody a free consultation. You can follow that QR code. It'll take you straight to our calendar system. So you can just pick any day and time that works for you. And we'll chat with you about whatever questions you might have related to any special needs topics. We'll get your questions answered the best we can, learn about you and your family, and then tell you a little bit about us and how we work and see if we would be a good fit to go forward together. We are very low pressure. Our aim is to help as much as possible. So if there's any other questions, now is your chance to get those up there and get that in the chat box. Otherwise, I just want to say thank you so much to Caroline and Christy for having us today, for sharing this webinar to your audiences and helping us build off of each other. The more that we help each other, the better we all are, right? So
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Caroline. It's always a pleasure to hear about buds.
Anytime.
I just love your organization. It gives
you.
me so much happiness. And Christy, thank you guys for all that you do. I know that testing and the stuff that you do can be really a huge expense for families. And the fact that you guys help with all of that is just amazing. We tell everybody to sign up for VR services if possible.
Yeah, I think we may be the best kept secret in the state.
We tell everybody, I promise. So thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And hey, it's Friday, so have a great weekend. And let any of us know, me or Christy or Caroline, if there's anything we can help you with. That's what we're here for. All right. Bye, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye.